Hey guys, welcome back to Flipping the Field from kickoff to closing, where construction meets real estate. Greg, we're back again. How are you doing today, brother?
I'm doing well, man. I'm just happy to be sitting in this seat chatting with you.
It seems like we always end up back here and always have good things to talk about, and we want to share our thoughts, opinions, how to scale businesses, how to change your personal life, how to grow teams. We just want to share our insight and, from past experiences and, could be from football, personal, business, you name it. So we just want to provide insight to others.
100%. It's funny how this has kind of happened organically. We've been talking about it for years. We've come up with, dozens of different variations of what that actual episode content is going to be. And we've had, to start, we put a 20-week calendar together. And as we're having these conversations and as we're going by episode to episode, it's funny because we'll hit on a topic, sometimes unintentionally, and it's like, you know what? We just kind of brushed over that a little bit. I'd love to be able to expand on that a little bit more. There's a lot of different nuances to business, to life, full circle on anything that a lot of people brush over. And we just love to be able to shed light as much as we possibly can from our experiences, both personally and in business as well. Let's talk about what we're gonna get into today. So today's episode, really gonna be chatting about the standard is the standard. So really being able to understand why unclear standards can often lead to chaos.
That's right. Seems very basic.
It does.
The standard is the standard. We heard it many times. We always talk about football, but, playing a Division I sport or, a collegiate sport, right? You and I both grew up with amazing parents.
Amazing.
A lot of people, right, did that as well. But playing a collegiate sport, no matter what sport it is, teaches you so many different things that you would not have learned otherwise just being a college student. Time management, how to manage all the different schedules that you have. I remember going to class at an 8 a.m. class, and you've already done more at 8 a.m. than more students would have done in a whole day.
Yep.
But when we start to think about the standard is the standard, I really lean into one example. I was a freshman, and we were doing mat drills. We all loved to hate mat drills.
It's a fun way to put it.
I think so, Well, there was one guy who we all know played in the NFL for a period of time, Vic Beasley, legendary defensive end at Clemson. He was one of those guys. You have a lot of different leaders.
Yep.
And a lot of people can lead from the front. Could be verbally, how they do things. But then you have people who maybe lead from behind, which seems odd.
Yep.
And Vic Beasley was one of those guys where he was a quiet soul. He was not a verbal leader. But I remember watching him through mat drills, through weightlifting, all the different things that we would do. He didn't say much, but people followed his actions.
Yep.
And he set the standard along the way of how to lead a position group and also a team by really, not being the vocal leader. And that was really cool to see. Like, he set a standard for his position group of how he was going to do that. And it was, it wasn't like, hey, follow me or do what I'm doing. But people started doing that because of his actions.
You can tie that into anything. You can tie that into business as well. Because, anytime somebody says a leader, the very first thing that they start thinking about is like, oh, okay, well, who's the most vocal individual?
Right.
And whenever you think about those types of things, not every single person is extremely vocal or likes to be in your face or likes to constantly have conversations and constant feedback as to what you could be doing better, what you need to improve on, what you've been doing great at. A lot of times that feedback, as long as you're looking for it and making sure that you are attentive when you should be and paying attention, don't let some life lessons go in one ear and out the other. Because when someone says a leader, you're almost always thinking about that front guy. However, we've always said this, the most successful teams, just talk about collegiate athletics. The most successful teams are the ones that are led by the players.
Correct.
Now, yes, you still have to have that super solid head coach like Coach Sweeney. You have to have the position coaches, and you need somebody to be able to actually point you towards that North Star. Because at the end of the day, you need to be able to work collectively as a group and understand, okay, where are we trying to get? What's that mountaintop we're trying to climb?
Right.
So you need that North Star. However, and I'm not going to get into the whole NIL and all of that because that will completely derail the conversation. Maybe that'll be a later episode. I don't know. But being able to have those players that lead by example and say, hey, listen, like you used a perfect example, Vic Beasley. A lot of the guys that we were on the team with, now Vic Beasley wasn't my time. I came in after, as you know. So I didn't get to experience his greatness, but I heard about it. I mean, it's still echoed through the halls at Clemson, even well after the fact, still does. And that just goes to show that the type of person you are, the type of character that you have, how you do the little things
Is how you do everything.
is how you do everything.
What did Coach Sweeney say? We're not. I mean, we've mentioned it before. We're never going to play down to an opponent's standard. We're going to play to the Clemson standard.
Best is the standard.
Right.
I think he trademarked
it. What does that mean to you? Because anybody can go out and say, you know, any of these sayings or, you know, the best is yet to come, best is the standard, you know, these sorts of things. Well, what does that truly mean deep down?
I mean, truly it means focus on the little things. So one thing another saying that Sweeney used to always say is if you do the common things in an uncommon way, you will command the attention of the world.
That's right.
Meaning all of these people have these super large aspirations, these big goals, and it's like, hey, well, okay, what do we call it in business? We call it a stretch goal, and then we have our actual goal. It's like, hey, actual goal, we better be hitting this thing.
That's right.
Stretch goal is, hey, this would be amazing, and this is what I think our team is capable of doing. So, but you can have these large goals. It goes back to what we were saying in a previous episode, talking about how do you eat an elephant? You eat it one bite at a time. It's making sure that you're able to maintain that discipline throughout every single step to be able to get to that end goal. However, people often overlook the impact that little things have.
That's right.
So, again, I mean, I know it's super cliche to say how you do one thing is how you do everything, but at the same time, that will start to bleed into every single aspect.
Well, it's
of your
like
life.
in our line of work, we do construction and we do loans for investors. Well, if like Coach Sweeney would say, if you can't make the easy plays or the plays that, if you can't catch a ball that's thrown right to you, how are you going to make the one-handed catches?
Yep.
If we can't close a down the middle of the fairway loan easily, or if we can't do a quick hit remodel job quickly or on time, how are we going to take on the bigger jobs? Well, guess what? This ties back to how do you know what the standard is? Because this all boils down to company culture, hiring. How do you build? You talk about houses, foundation. The standard is built from the foundation up.
Yep.
Because you don't. If you hire wrong, you're going to have a bad company culture, which leads to no standards.
And depending upon the size that your company is at, like say you're still a small business, you make one wrong hire. They might be the most qualified individual to be able to bring in to that particular position, be extremely efficient, task-oriented, leadership skills, all of the above. They might be perfect for that role. If they don't fit the culture aspect, that's all it takes. It doesn't matter how good they are at their job. If they don't fit the culture, that is also a standard that we uphold.
Let me just tell you this. To find out if somebody does fit that, I hate interviews.
Agreed.
Right? Interviews are, needed, I would say. But, you're just selling your company, right? This interviewee should be selling themselves.
We talk about that. So as you know, I mean, we constantly are going back to Clemson and pouring back into the younger guys, heavily involved with Pod Journey. I mean, that's an amazing leadership, player-led.
Shout out to Jeff Davis. And the whole team. I mean, they do a great job.
They certainly do, and that's what keeps us coming back.
Yeah.
Our initiatives like that, because it truly pours into, and those of you who don't know what Pod Journey is, it's a player-led leadership initiative that Clemson has set up where it provides the players for life after football. It gives them the tools to be able to be successful as a husband, as a man, as a businessman, personally as well as professionally, going through resume structuring, helping putting that together. Here's how you should attack interviews, going on service trips.
Yeah. You and I got to experience so much through that. And
we did.
You know, that we were a part of the inaugural class. You know, we can go down a rabbit hole real quick because I don't think it does enough justice of just giving it a minute or two here because
Agreed. It
hits home for both of us. You know, I'll let you tell your side of it, but for me personally, you know, I was a part of Paul's journey just like you, and I went off, finished playing football for the 4 years that I was a part of the team, and got into a job that I took, moved to here in Greenville, South Carolina, and without, you know, randomly, I walk into the office one day. I've been there a month and a half. I got laid off. I got to experience it firsthand. Well, just because I was graduated, I was gone. Clemson football didn't, you know, throw us to the wayside.
Yep.
So, number one, I called my parents when I got laid off. Like, that was my first call. And then second call was the Paul Journey team. And within an hour and a half of being laid off on a Friday morning, I was back in the Clemson football facility. They were helping me update my resume. They were helping me with suggestions of who to call to set up interviews for a next job. They care.
100%.
And you want to talk about standard? That is the standard.
Correct.
Because they don't just care about you, how you perform on the field, or what you did for me at practice, in the weight room. They care about you as a man and how you're going to be a husband, a father one day.
A lot of programs talk about it. It's different to talk about it, and it's another thing to be about it.
That's exactly right.
So, and I think that is a true testament to Paul Journey and what they've built and the culture that they've built as well.
That's
because most programs, once you leave, I mean, the running joke just within collegiate athletics is, oh yeah, once I graduated, like they took my fingerprint away.
That's right.
They took my access to every single one of the facilities, and it's like they forgot about everything that we just went through for the last 4 years.
You had a very catastrophic, I would say, you know, injury. I mean, what did they do for you? I mean, I know that was emotionally, I mean, it took a toll on you.
It did. And I mean, during that time, that's really whenever I think I became super close with Jeff Davis, is because you kind of fall into a rhythm. And what I mean by that is whenever you get injured, so as you know, I mean, ACL, MCL, PCL, completely torn. That was after the third game of the season. During practice, it was a season-ending injury. I can say this now, but the surgeon at the time said, "It's like, hey man, like this is on your kicking leg. You're probably never going to kick again." So hearing that and having these grand plans, to where, I mean, in my mind, I know you know this because we've talked about it. I mean this humbly, is that I was an All-American at Clemson. When you become an All-American, all that was going on in the back of my mind was, okay, if I can continue to build on my craft and continue to do the little things that are going to continue to lay the foundation for me to be successful, like, man, I'm going to the NFL. Like, that was a thought, and that was my goal, and that was what I thought was actually realistic. Like, I was like, whatever I got to do to be able to make it work, that's what's going to happen. That's what I'm going to do. And I had a season-ending injury, and then I was told that I was never going to be able to kick again. That's a lot of emotions, and I didn't know fully how to work through those on myself, or by myself. I mean, yes, leaned into the family, leaned into friends, leaned into you, leaned into the rest of the program as well, because the other individuals and the other people within that facility at Clemson, they understand what it is like and all those different emotions that go along with it. I mean, I love my family. They're absolutely amazing. They're the most supportive, and I'm extremely blessed to have them. Being able to talk through things like that, and my mom's in the medical field, being able to talk through those types of emotions is, they don't fully grasp kind of where I'm coming from and what I'm seeing on a daily basis. But the people within that facility do. You did. And I mean, I went down and I was chatting with Jeff Davis, and we were talking through, it was like, okay, well, we're going to put a plan together. We're going to absolutely attack all the PT that I was having to do on a daily basis. It's like, listen, the only thing you could do in this particular moment is take it a day at a time. Don't get down. Don't get in your head. Don't start thinking negative. We talk about the extreme importance and the impact that positive thoughts and positive self-talk can have, and it is absolutely true. So it's like, okay, you know what? Screw it. It is what it is. There's nothing I can do about it now. The best thing that I can do is attack every single day and be the best person that I can be every single day. If anything, the rest is in God's hands.
That's right.
It all works out at the end of the day, at least. And if it doesn't work out within your plan, then it works out the way that it was supposed to work out. And that's one thing that a lot of people forget, is like, just because it didn't work out exactly the way you wanted it to, it worked out the way that it was meant to. Now, that you may see the fruits of those labors 3 years, 4 years, 5 years down the line, because you don't fully understand what God's plan is for you. And at the same time, I mean, I sat down with Jeff Davis every single day, 30 minutes, sometimes 45 minutes in between classes, after practice, before practice. Could have been an hour, hour and a half. I mean, there were some times we just sat there talking, and it helped because he was pouring into me in ways that I didn't even know that I needed.
Right.
And he's the head of it. He's running Paw Journey.
Yeah.
So knowing that you have a guy like that is able to see you for the man that you are and not the player that you are, you can't take those types of people for granted.
That's right.
Because, I mean, everybody needs those people. So,
I think one of the things that, when you're setting what is the standard,
yep,
right? And the standard is the standard. Well, how do you even know what the standard is? As a company or as a person, as a company, you're setting those expectations. You're setting that standard. Well, what, if you have unclear standards or expectations, I mean, what does that lead to?
It leads to chaos.
Right.
Because you can't hold somebody accountable for a particular role and responsibility or to a quality standard. This is one thing that, I mean, I can't tell you the number of hours that you and I talked about it and sat down and put our company standards together and actually worked through all of that, because it's like, okay, going out to a project, and this is when we were first getting going, is I was tired of having the conversations with subcontractors. I mean, shoot, internally as well. It's like, okay, all of this lives in our heads.
Yeah.
We need to actually sit down, take the time to put it on paper, because that's another thing is I was making the assumption, it's like, all right, I've been over this so many different times. Like, how do these guys not know what the actual expectation is?
Right.
And it's like, all right, let's actually sit down and quantify it. And it was start to finish. It was how you talk in the office. It's how you treat your peers internally and externally.
Yep.
It's how you present yourself. So presenting yourself as in, hey, if you're pulling up to a job site, don't pull up with your truck being completely trashed.
Yeah.
Like, that's a small thing that
Perception
a lot of people don't
is
think
reality.
About. 100%.
I mean, and you always get one chance to make a first impression on anybody. And one of the things that we've really tried to implement in a lot of things that we do is, I took this from Deion Sanders, and I really loved what he did, is, we have always said that we will never have managers.
Yep.
Right? We will have leaders, right? Because those leaders are setting the standard that we have implemented within them. And you talked about it, could be internally, externally. It's, how you carry yourself, how you talk to people. And a lot of what, we do in business, personal as well, is now a lot over the phone, texting, teamsing, emailing, you name it. Well, words can be interpreted a million different ways. And that's a huge thing. And it's all about how you phrase things. I don't want to manage somebody. I want to lead them, because I want to lead them to the standard that we have set.
And it's also taking it a few steps further. And honestly, the AI is huge nowadays, with being able to actually sit there. I mean, you did it, I did it, we still do it. It's like, hey, I don't want to say I'm struggling, but I'm challenged with this particular, like, actually putting these standards together, because all of it lives in the head. It's like, okay, well, just talk through what you're looking for.
Yeah.
And that's beautiful thing about AI nowadays, in that you can just pull it up and you can talk. So it's like, hey, these are what we envision for our company. These are what our goals are. Here's how I quantify what a standard is. So It's one thing saying, oh, okay, yeah, like don't show up with your truck being messy. Okay, what does that mean? Also, whenever you're having these conversations with clients, make sure that you are doing so professionally and in the image and in the tone of what our company standards are. Okay,
That's
what
right.
does that mean? Like, we know what that means, but at the same time,
But you have
it's
to
like,
illustrate that to other people.
exactly. And it's like just one specific example. When you're having a conversation with a client, and this is a very small thing, but just as a prime example as to the level of detail to be able to just talk through and put these standards together, is when you're having a conversation with a client, we're going to talk construction for a second. Don't ever use the word cheap. You are always having a conversation with a client whenever you're talking about the prelim estimate and you're going through what this scope of work is, and you're actually aligning with the client saying, hey, is this what you were actually anticipating from a functionality, from a cost basis? 99% of the time is like, wow, that's a little bit higher than I was anticipating. Welcome to construction. That's just the way that it is. You could be the bottom bid. People are still going to think it's more expensive than they were anticipating.
No doubt.
But don't say the word cheap. When you're describing it, saying, oh, well, somebody wants hardwood floors. You want hardwood floors? Well, based off the entire budget, let's talk about the functionality of it. Do you have little kids? Do you have little kids that are actually running around? Because we're very functionality based and lifestyle based, to where we want it to create a space that can get into the flow of your lifestyle. So, all right, you got little kids. All right, one thing to think about, yes, I understand the hardwood floors look good. You can also get a thicker LVP type material. It's more cost effective. It's not cheaper. It's more cost effective, and it actually delivers that level of functionality because it's a lot more durable. You're not going to have scratches over time. You don't have to refinish it every few years to be able to keep that quality. And it's like, those are the things that we're talking about of vocabulary.
One word could change everything.
Everything.
Yeah.
Someone hears cheap, okay, now you have a psychological factor that's being deployed of, okay, well, this contractor, even though we will not cut corners. We don't compromise on two things, safety and quality. That being said, is if they hear the word cheap, immediate psychological response is, oh, okay, this contractor is willing to cut corners.
That's right.
It's cost effective.
That's right.
So that's just a very specific example, but just
leads me into what I was thinking, right? Is if you're getting to the standard is standard and what that boils down to as a leader, as a company business owner, or even personally, you have to be willing to hold yourself accountable first.
Yep.
And that could mean a lot of different things. Nobody's perfect. There's only been one person in this world that's ever been perfect. And you have to be willing to own up to mistakes, to say, hey, I was wrong here, guys. I'm sorry. I messed up. But I messed up. Well, how did I mess up? I'm going to learn from this, and here's why it's not up to our standard. And then it's a learning lesson, because if you're not learning from any mistakes, how is anybody else on your team going to learn from that?
And the accountability goes both ways. That's the beautiful thing. We tell our people, like, hey, listen, if you see us not living up to the company standard as well, now you criticize in private and you celebrate in public.
That's right.
So let's get that clear. But it's like, hey, if you see us doing something that's not up to the company standards, call us out on it.
Yeah.
Because we want to be able to display that level of leadership and accountability and those standards ourselves. We kind of brushed it over it. You made a comment earlier of we have leaders, and implementing that from what Deion Sanders does with his team at Colorado. What is the difference between a leader and a boss?
I think there's, on paper, to most people, probably nothing.
Yep.
Right. But I think there's a huge difference. Somebody, if I'm comparing somebody who's a leader versus a manager is somebody who is, looking over somebody's shoulder. Oh, here's your daily KPI. Oh, you were one metric short of that today. Why were you short? I'm breathing down their neck on why this, why that. Well, somebody who's a leader is coaching them, is working with that individual and saying, hey, I saw you were, one item short on our daily metrics or our monthly metrics, is there anything I can do to help you? How can I help you reach your goals? Do you need additional training? Can I help you in any different ways? That leader is going to help push that individual to get to that next level, to hit their goals. But this manager is just going to sit here, oh, you didn't do this, I'm going to put you on a PIP.
Yep.
And all right, yeah, if you don't do it, I need to, let you go in a few months. Well, no. But sure, you could say a leader is managing people, but no, they're leading them from the front.
They're empowering them.
Exactly.
Yep. They're empowering them. And that,
because you have those people on your team because you trust them to do their job. If you didn't trust them to do their job, they wouldn't be where they are.
And at the same time, what those conversations lead to, and this comes down to a culture thing and actually the overall company standards as to why we have leaders, not managers, is if you're taking the time as a leader to have those conversations, like you mentioned, you're one metric short. All right, listen, man, I understand it's not acceptable because it's not. However, I want to understand the why.
Yeah.
I don't only want to look at the outcome, I want to look at the cause. So why were you one metric short? Okay, you might find out that that person's dealing with something in their personal life, and I get it. It's business and personal, and you keep them separate and all the above. You leave your personal feelings at the door. I agree with that to an extent because, yes, that just breeds excuses. Let's be real. It breeds excuses, and at the end of the day, as you're having those conversations, it can get to a point to where you're having those open, candid conversations saying, hey, I didn't hit it because of X, Y, Z. I would have hit it if I had this, this, and this. Because at the end of the day, you're improving your operations, your processes, you're talking with the people on the front lines, you're understanding the actual workflow of your company on an individual and more granular level so that when we're making those decisions, we can be able to identify if it's a reversible or an irreversible decision.
There we go.
So being able to look at it that way, I also want to highlight that you're able to weed out, and that's where culture is a huge thing, is you're able to weed out. You may have a bad apple. You're not going to hire the right person every single time.
Yeah.
But if you're asking why, and we're saying, hey, why weren't you able to achieve this metric? If you're getting a BS answer every single time, or you're getting an excuse every single time, and it's not an actual logical reasoning as to why they were not capable with the tools that they were given and the knowledge that they were given and training and all the above to be able to achieve that goal. Like if I'm not setting you up for success, tell me.
Yeah.
I want to set up because I want to empower and I want to develop every single person that we have here.
Yep.
So if there's ways to do that, let's talk about it. But it also becomes pretty abundantly clear as to what their answer is when you're having that question as a leader, to where it's like, all right, this person's not the right fit.
I think that, all of this is, great. And as we're coming to a close here on this, we could talk for a long time. But I want you to give one thing.
Okay.
Could be personal or business related, however you see fit. What is one thing that somebody could do starting today to keep the standard for their own life or business? Just one thing. And then I'll piggyback after you.
We say a lot of times anything worth doing needs to be tracked. Why do something if you're not going to track it? So that's what I would say is start paying attention, start tracking the decisions and the standards. Shoot, you can look at it with your family or you can look at it within your business. Start actually tracking the little things that you haven't previously, and don't just nod and say, yep, we're doing good. Constant reevaluation and audit yourself.
I love that. That could be done in many different ways.
Yep.
If somebody's looking to make a change right now, or, if you don't know what your standard is, we always say you need to start with the foundation. If you don't know, the standard is X, Y, Z, you need to build that. And you can't have a standard if you don't know what they are.
Yep.
So as a company or in your life, you need to identify that and write that down. Because if you don't write it down, how do you know what's going to be tracked?
Put your thoughts on paper.
That's right.
It.
That's right. You and I do this all the time. If we have an idea, we have a notes app, or we have, a Word document we just add thoughts to it. And those turn into ideas. They turn into, ways that we implement things. So start it down, write it down, and then you can build your standard upon that to hold teams accountable.
100%. Starts with building it out and identifying what it is.
That's right. I appreciate you joining us today. This is awesome.
Heck yeah. It was an absolute pleasure, man. Always is.
That's
Look
right.
in before you look out.
Have a great day, everyone.